Welcome back, friends, to our channel, The Tuition Center. Hope you are enjoying learning After Effects. Yesterday, we have learned how to do or how to start animation, the basic of animation, the starting points, how to create your first keyframe, how to move, how to rotate, how to position, how to play with the transparency, and so on. Today, we would be importing a project of Photoshop into After Effects, and then we would be doing basic animation on it. The project says what all things you should remember or you should do while dealing with coronavirus. So to import your project, your Photoshop project into After Effects, click on File, Import, Import File. Most of us would be knowing how to import, as we have talked in detail how to import in our first chapter. So click on the file, click on footage, and click on composition, retail, layer sizes. All these three we have talked in our first lesson. So what are the differences between when you import by choosing footage, or when you import by choosing retain layer sizes, or when you import by choosing composition. So we start our or we will import our Photoshop project by clicking on composition, retain layer sizes, and click on OK. Do remember that these both boxes are unchecked. Click on open. Here you need to select editable layer style, else your layer would be merged, and click OK. So when you have clicked, you can see that the Photoshop project have been imported in your project area. Plus all the folders which you have made, you can also see them separately. Text layer, the folders and all. Plus auto composition or auto composition have been made. To see the properties of the composition, you can click on the composition and see on the top side it says the project name, the size of your composition, the duration of your timeline, and the frame rates. Now to open this composition, you need to double click on composition. So when you double click on composition, you can see that your timeline have been opened, and the structure of the timeline is basically the copy of your Photoshop project. Whatever folder you have created, you can see all those folder in it. So what we will do is we will animate each and every composition separately. We have brought the composition separately from Photoshop. Plus you will also learn what is the importance of creating each and everything in different layers. So for example, we have created wash your hands every, and in the second window it says every 3 seconds with water and soap. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are around 8 layers to it. So when we have created when we made our Photoshop project, we have kept in mind what all things we would like to animate when we go to After Effects. So always remember to keep in your mind what all things you need to animate. All those things should be in different layers. So let's save the project first. To save, go to File and Save. And let's go to day 3 and click on things to remember about coronavirus. So .aep is the format of After Effects. So each and every file, each and every software has its format. Like if you talk about Photoshop, it's PSD. Likewise in After Effects, it's AEP. And click on Save. So you can see here, instead of untitled, now you have a name to your project, and it's very important to save the project. Now let's start the animation. And if you see here, the entire thing is under one folder, and we it's like one file or one layer. So how would we go into it, right? So double click is not working, so that's why we need to right click and go into open and open layer source. So you can see one more composition or one more timeline have been opened here. So it's like it shows you all the layer which is there in this composition. So let's open our title bar, and let's start the animation. So what type of animation? Let's think what will we do with these images. So we will start the the circle part which shows hands washing with opacity and scaling. So we will start with 0 transparency and it goes to 100 transparency. In the same time it will also go we will also do the scaling to the same layer, which will go from 0 to 100. So let's click on the rounded layer and let's click S for scaling, shift T for opacity. So let's do the animation for around half a second. When you say half a second, it's like only half a second. What will it do? But when we work on the animation, so we would be working on 12 different images to complete that 12 frames, which is equal to half a second. So let's go to in point. Let's press in and go to the in point of the layer and make the scaling 0 plus let's also edit the value of opacity to 0. Don't worry about rest of the layer. We would be adjusting those also, as we have talked in our previous chapter, that whenever you want to move any particular layer, you can go there to that particular seconds or frames, and then you can push that layer to that point. So let's press the space bar and see what happens. So you can see it's coming with scaling and opacity. So post scaling, what I want is I want my wash your hand every day should come on the top. So to do that, let's select wash your hand and then press bracket open in front of P, so that your layer can come to the point where your cursor is. So now we would be creating masking. So do remember that it would be the first time that we would be creating masking in a project. So clearly understand how to create masking. So masking can be created by any of the top any or for example it can be created by rectangular tool, or it can be created by pen tool. Either of the tool you can use to create masking. So in this case we would be using our rectangular tool to create masking. So as in Photoshop, when you long click the rectangular tool, you can see different type of sub tools underneath. So you can create any of you want to. We will simply use a rectangle. So press and drag. So when you are pressing and dragging, you can see the things which are in the box are only visible, and the things which are outside of the box goes invisible. So you can drag it, and you can see now your entire wash your hand is visible. Now to make masking, so always remember you have to make first key. Rest of the key After Effects generates itself. So to create your first key, you need to press M on your keyboard, and you can see the watch icon have come in front of the masking path. So let's go to 12 frame again, or let's do 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. let's let's make the out point at 8 frames. So it's up to you whether you want to make your first key in point or out point. So in this case, it would be convenient to make your key at first to the out point, because you already have what you need, or what would be your final frame. So go to in frame, and then select your mask and drag it towards your left. So when you drag, you can notice that wash your hand has disappeared, and the key have been auto generated here. So because we have made mask key, so anything which we do with the mask element, the key would be auto generated. Do remember the key, if your cursor is on the place where there is a key already, it will replace that previous key to the new key. Now when we play it, so you can see, so it looks bit fast, but it's okay, I think so. Let's go to water layer, and let's create the transparency from 0, from 0 to 100. So let's click on the value and do 0.9. Copy paste the keyframe. Let's go to the square box in front of water, and let's do scaling to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you can push your keyframes by pressing Alt or Option, and the arrow, forward arrow towards your right, and make it 0. Plus when okay, so you can see there is a problem with the scaling part. So it's coming from the center of the screen, and then coming towards the end point. So why is it so? So you can see this. You can see this anchor point, right? This. So this is known as the anchor point, and wherever this anchor point is of that particular layer, the orientation of that particular layer would happen from that thing. So in this case, it's in the center of the frame. That's why when we do the scaling, it's coming from the center itself. So let's select it. And now the question is how to move this anchor point from here to here. So this is basically the anchor point tool, which comes with the key Y. So you can press this, you can come to the center, you can press and drag it to the center of your object, or if you want the scaling to happen from top or left or right. So wherever you want your scaling to happen, you can place this anchor point there, and the scaling will happen from that particular point. So now if you click play, so you can see that the scaling is coming from point 0 to point 100 instead of from top to bottom. Now let's create masking again. See, we are not using any animation as such, so that it's easy for you guys, because uh, the right arrow was created with the help of shape tool, so it has carried its path itself. So we can just play with its path. So play with its path. So now what do you think what happens? So we have done two things here if you have noticed. First thing, we have shifted the layer of the right click icon to 1.15 seconds, so that the animation starts when it comes to 1.15 seconds. Plus we have adjusted the mask which we have brought from Photoshop point 0. So if we see the animation, forget the so so if you see the animation, first comes the circle, then comes the wash your hand, and then comes your water, and then the scaling of the, let's deselect it, then the scaling of your box underneath your arrow sign, and then comes the arrow with the masking. So let's again play it to see what exactly have we done. Scaling, rotation, masking. Now let's do the same thing on the soap part. So instead of waiting for the entire water and right click to happen, let's start the soap animation somewhat in between itself. So let's go to shop layer. Let's press the open bracket in front of P to bring your layer to the point where your cursor is. Now you have two options, either to create your keyframes again, or you also have the option to copy paste the keyframe. So when you click on opacity icon, so you can see both your keyframes have become blue. So that means if you press command C on Mac, or control C on Windows system, it will copy your keyframes to the desired layer. You have to just paste the layer. So let's go and select the soap layer, and then press command V. So you can see we have copied our keyframes there. Now in the same way, let's go to box in front of the soap layer. Now again we can notice that the anchor point is in the mid of the frame instead of the center of the box. So let's go to the anchor point by pressing Y, and you can shift your anchor point in the middle of your box. So again let's go to rectangle layer. Let's press S. Let's click on S. Let's copy the frame. Let's go to the box layer and do command V. So you can see that the keyframes have been copied. In the same way, you can go to shape layer, but I think it will change the position of your thing. But let's try what happens. Let's copy the mask keyframe. Let's go to second click, and let's open the now thing to remember here is that before pasting the keyframes, you need to select that particular mask. If you don't select that particular mask, what will happen is it will create one new mask. So if I copy and now paste it, you can see it has shifted to top, but if it haven't created any new mask. In the same way, now if I do not select the mask and paste the thing, you can see that it has created one new mask. So to paste the thing on the same mask, you need to select that particular mask before pasting the keyframes of mask thing. So you can simply shift your mask, but when you are shifting the mask, you can see that instead of the layer shifting, it's shifting the mask itself. So I don't think you want that. So what you will do is you will deselect the mask and you will select the layer and then shift the thing down. To shift the thing, you can press shift and down arrow and up arrow. So now we have animated each and everything which we want to animate and which we have brought in different layers so that we can animate here. Let's go to the in point and see what's the animation. Of course, save the project whenever you make it in habit to save the project after 5 minutes or 10 minutes. So let's press the let's go to the point zero time on the timeline and then press the space key, so you can see the animation. You have created the animation. In the same way you will create the animation of rest of the things. So let's go to, so we will adjust the layer after some time. Let's first create the animation of each and every object which we have bought from Photoshop. So here you can see it's basically, you have 3 layers, and I think one layer we have bought by mistake, so we will merge that layer. Now whenever you merge any layer, it will create one new composition, and you can go into that composition if you want to change anything. So to create a layer you need to command shift C, and merging or pre-composition window will open. You can name the composition as per your own choice. So let's name it 3 hours. But what have happened is the layer have gone to the top and the red layer have gone to the bottom. So let's select the layer and then paste the layers. Now you can see it's okay. Now let's scale the object. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Make the value 0. Go to the end keyframe, select the top layer, press the open bracket in front of P to shift your layer to the point where your cursor is. Let's adjust the anchor point. Now let's so we will do 2 things here. First we will 3 4 5 6 7 8. Now let's first we will do the scaling to 0, and then we will open rotation, make a keyframe of rotation, go to 2 seconds and give it one, let's give it one rotation would be sufficient. Let's give it one round rotation. Click OK. So now let's see. Now we have done scaling. Plus what we have done is we have done scaling, plus we have done scaling with rotation. So let's press the space bar and see what happens. So it's scale and then it's rotating in its axis. So you would have noticed that we have shifted our anchor point. So wherever the anchor point is, it will rotate from that particular axis. Now let's go to third folder, open layer to source. So here you can see 2 text objects plus 1 circle. So we will repeat our same things. So first we will do the scaling of the circle, then we will create 2 separate masks for 2 different text units, and then we will open and close the mask. So it's very important to save the project again and again. So because whenever your After Effects crashes or your system goes down, your things are safe. So let's select the layer. let's edit the value to 0. Let's go to the end frame. So to shuffle between X frame and Y frame, so if you want to go to the previous frame, you need to press J. If you want to go to the next frame or forward frame, you need to press K. So now let's select your text layer, press the open bracket in front of P, click on your rectangular tool, create a mask around the text layer, go to the second layer, again create the second mask, go to your first layer, press M and create your first keyframe. Select the mask and close it. Likewise, go to your 2 meter 6 fit mask, create a mask, shift the keyframe forward, select the mask and close the mask. So let's see what happens. So first the scaling, then the tags, and then the bottom tags. Right. Now let's go to our cover your sneeze. Open it. So it has two layers. So always remember that while creating this project, we were clear in our mind that we would be creating what all animation we would be doing with the project. So accordingly we have created different layers. So it was very clear in our mind that we would be doing scaling and scaling plus your opacity. We have forgot to made opacity key that we will do in keep distance from 6 people. Plus we would be doing masking to our cover your sneeze or cough. So let's select your round, go to in, so you can press I to go to the in point of your layer. Then let's create the mask key. So the shortcut to create the mask key is basically shift alt S. So any keyframe you want to create, you can first keyframe, always remember first keyframe. So if you are here and you click here, you can do that. So so likewise you can create opacity key by shift alt T and so on. So let's shift the keyframe 12 frame forward. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12. Let's create the opacity key. Instead of there, you can go to the keyframe and then press control shift alt T to the shortcut to create the keys. Then go to the in point, press 0, go to opacity, then press 0, press scale, go to your text layer, press Q is the shortcut to go to rectangular tool, and then create a mask around your text layer. Click then click alt shift M to create masking keys. Then click on your mask and then close the mask. Now let's see what animation have we done. Go to in frame and click. Right. So this point says cover your sneeze or cough. So these are very important points to make to so that you and your nearby are safe. Now go to if you don't have tissue. So now there are two layers of text and one layer of round circle. Now it says if you don't have tissue, then cuff into your elbow. So you need to cuff like this so that people around you are safe and you are also safe. So now first select your circle, go to endpoint of that particular layer, go go 12 frame forward. So to go 10 frame forward, the shortcut is Command Shift and forward arrow. Press Shift Alt and S. Shift Alt and S is the shortcut to create your keyframes. Go to endpoint by pressing I on your keyboard and then edit the value of your scaling to 0. Likewise, let's create the opacity keys also. Go to endpoint, click on the edit value and press 0. So now you can see that we have created 4 keys which says scaling and opacity, also known as transparency, is it's 0 in endpoint, and when we go to the out point or out keyframe or next keyframe by pressing K on your keyboard, it says the scaling is 100 and opacity is also 100. You can adjust as per your convenience. It's not compulsory that each and every keyframe should be 100 at the end. It entirely depends on you what type of animation you want to do with your things. Now let's select the masking or the text layer at the top. Press Q on your keyboard or press the rectangular tool. Press and drag to create the mask around the text. Create Alt Shift M. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 then close your mask. Go 6 frame forward, or it depends on you how much frame do you want to go forward to for second thing to appear. Click Q on your keyboard and then create a mask. Press M. Alt Shift M is the shortcut, or you can press M and then you can click here to create your first key. Press Alt and forward arrow to move your keyframe frame wise. Then close the mask. So we have done opacity and scaling to the circle, and then we have created mask around the text layers, and then we have created keyframe of that particular text layer, and then we have closed the mask in the at the endpoint, and then we have gone around X frames forward, and then we have opened the mask. So let's press the space bar and see the animation. Right. So it depends on you. If you want to close towards your right, you can close towards your right, then it will open from your right. Or if you want the text should appear from top, you can close your mask towards the top, then it will come from top. If you want from down, you can close the mask towards your down, then it will come from down. It entirely depends on you. You need to experiment with things. Now let's go avoid shaking hand. So in avoid shaking hand, you can see two keys. First, two layers. One is of round circle and another is of text layer. So likewise, we will go to frame 12 or any frame you like to. We will select the layer. We will press S and Shift T so that two things are open in one at one particular time. Press I to go to the in frame of that particular layer which have been selected. Edit the value to 0. Edit the transparency value to 0. Go to the out frame. To go to the out frame, the shortcut is K. To next frame it's K, and to the previous frame it's J. Select the text layer and press the open bracket which is in front of P to shift your layer to the point where your cursor is. Press Q to select rectangular tool and create a tool around the text. Press M and click on this watch icon to create your first key. So it's very important to remember to create your first key, because many times you will notice that you have created your animation, or you have done all the formalities to create the animation, but you forget to make the keys. These are small things which you need to remember in your career. Now go to InPoint and press spacebar so you can see the animation. So now let's go to, so we have done avoid shaking hands. Now we will go to avoid touching your face. So here also you can see two layers. One is of text layer and another is your object or your circle layer. We haven't brought this exclamation mark icon in a separate layer, so because we don't need the an animation to be separate for that thing. Now let's go to the round layer, select the round layer, go to frame 12. The duration, it entirely depends on you how much duration do you need. Let's press Alt Shift T and Alt Shift S as the shortcut to create the keyframes. Click on edit value, click on 0, click on opacity edit value and click 0. Go to the outer part, select the text layer, press P in front of, press open bracket in front of P, click Q and create a mask around your text layer. Then go to 0.6 frames, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. Let's go to 8 frames. Press Alt Shift M to create first key. Go to InPoint by pressing I on your keyboard. Select the mask and close it. Go to InPoint and then press spacebar to see your animation. Right. Now let's go stay at home. So stay at home also have two layers. One is text layer and another is your circle layer. So go to frame 12, select the layer, press Alt Shift S and Alt Shift T on your keyboard. Press I on your keyboard to go to in frame. Edit the value of scaling and opacity to 0.0. Go to the next frame by pressing K on your keyboard. Select the layer and press open bracket in front of P. Click Q to go to rectangular tool and create a mask around your stay at home text. Go 8 frame forward. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8. To go 8 frame forward, you need to press command and forward arrow button on your keyboard, which is the last keyboard at the bottom side of your keyboard. Press Alt Shift M to create your first key. Go to InPoint and then then close your mask. You can do it one by one also. Go to 0.0 on your timeline and then press spacebar so you can see the animation. So you have done animation of each and everything which you have bought from Photoshop. But now, what are you showing? You are showing that things to remember about coronavirus, or things to do, or things to do and avoid, or precaution to be taken in the time of coronavirus. So let's create new composition and let's create a text layer and write things, precaution to be taken in the time of coronavirus. So let's go to composition, new composition, name it final animation because we would be importing all of our Photoshop folders in this composition, and we would be adjusting the composition accordingly, and click OK. So now you can see that one more timeline or one more composition have been created in your project folder. plus in animation you in the timeline name is animation. The setting we haven't adjusted because the default settings were there. Now go to layer, new, text layer. You can see this uh, red marker in center of your screen, plus you can see one empty layer which have been created on your timeline. So now let's type caution, precaution to be taken during coronavirus. Precaution to be taken during coronavirus. Let's bring your duration word out, and let's bring coronavirus down. Let's unbold the entire text except coronavirus. So if you can't find your character box here, you can go to window and then open your character box. Let's increase the size of taken. Let's also increase the size of, or let's create a separate layer for coronavirus. Let's adjust the tracking. Now let's create one more layer which says new layer text and paste the coronavirus text and increase the size of this thing. So you are free to do whatever you want to. So the basic thought process, you should remember that we have created one new composition in which we have created text layers. So that's the main output which you should go get from this particular part of the tutorial. So now you can see two layers. One says precaution to be taken during coronavirus, right? So now let's animate it. Let's go to let's use default animation. So to use default animation you need to go to animation, recent, and let's what should we use, or let's simply use opacity. Command shift option T, edit the value to 0. So you can see as we have created the coronavirus layer in different layer, so it's intact, nothing have happened to that thing. So if we press space bar, you can see the opacity. Now let's select coronavirus layer and let's decode, smooth, fade upward. Let's flow fade up. So that's the default animation, but you can see the keyframe have been created. So you can select the keyframe and you can adjust the duration in which you want that particular thing to happen. Go to endpoint and see what has happened, right? So let's decrease the size, the entire size. It should be around 60, or yes, I think it's okay. Let's scale it. So you can see that we have composed both the layers. So to compose, the shortcut is basically command shift see, you can compose the things. Now we will adjust the layers when we want our layer to appear. So it says precaution to be taken during coronavirus. Go to frame 2, scaling, position, and let's scale it down to 30, and let's take it towards the left of, or towards the top left of the screen. Plus let's do slide animation, so it goes from 80 60 to 75 in 2 seconds. The duration is 2 seconds. We will not use any shine or masking to it. We will talk it, or we will beautify it in some other chapter. So let's play spacebar, click spacebar, and you can see. Now you can see that, let's let's click it and open layer source, and let's decrease the duration in which your precaution to be taken appears, and then click on the top, and then click, and now let's see what happens is, right. Yes. So now we will bring our things which need to be taken care of one by one on our screen. So let's click, and first thing first, which says wash your hands every 3 hours. Paste it. So as you can see, it's a composition now, and if you want to decrease the size of the entire composition, you feel free to do that and adjust it. So now first thing first, it says precaution to be taken during coronavirus, and when it goes up, the first thing which comes is, it says wash your hand every now at duration 5, second layer will appear. So wash your hand every, and we want when it appears, the wash your hand should go slightly towards your left. So let's create position key and take this towards the left, and also adjust the 3 hours thingy towards your right. Plus let's also reduce the size of it to 80. Now see what happens. So first, it's some precaution to be taken during coronavirus. Wash your hand every 3 hours with water. So now as you can see that we have created our timeline. The duration of the timeline was 10 seconds, which is not sufficient for our project, and also you know how to change or how to edit the settings of the existing project. So press command K, and let's make the duration 40 seconds and press OK. So you can see the duration have been made 40 seconds. So minus and plus are the buttons which you need to press to scale and to zoom and zoom out your timeline. Now let's go again, and now let's click keep distance from sick people, and paste it here at the duration 8 seconds. So now let's on the layer, let's press as and make the scaling 80. Now one thing you would notice here, the composition which says precaution to be taken during coronavirus is the duration, it's short. So same way you will go into that, you can increase the duration as you want. You have to select the layer and then drag the layer towards the end so that it increases. So you can see now it's increased. You can go to the end and then create a thing, and then you can. Now the thing is, when so now when you see it's coming on the top, so either you need to make opacity keyframe when it's appearing, or you need to do something so that it's not on the top. So let's create opacity keyframe. When it's coming, the opacity should go to 0. Press shift option T and go forward and then edit the value to 0. Right, now press, so you can see when your keep distance from sick people appears around 2 meter or 6 feet, the previous layers go, the transparency goes to 0 of the layer which are at bottom. Now let's import the third layer, and each and every decide, so it's 8. Let's give 2 seconds to each and every frame which we are bringing from there. So now the next frame says cover your sneeze or cough. Let's copy this, go to animation, select the top layer and then paste it. The way we have created the opacity, in the same way we would be creating the opacity keyframe on keep distance from sick people, so that when the layer which says cover your sneeze comes, the bottom layer automatically goes, or it vanishes from the frame. So go and now see, so it says keep distance, cover your sneeze, so 8 to 12. So let's go to 12 keyframe. Let's go again and copy which says if you don't have a tissue. So if you don't have a tissue, what should you do when you sneeze? So if you don't have a tissue, let's see what does it says. What should you do? when you don't have tissue. So if you don't have tissue, cuff into your elbow, right? So if you first thing you need to cover, if you don't have tissue, cuff into your elbow. Now again go back, avoid shaking hands. So next thing which it requests you, do not shake hands. You don't know from where the virus would travel in your body. So do not shake your hands. So let's copy paste the opacity keyframes. Avoid shaking hands. So come back to our Indian culture, which says namaste instead of shaking hands. So again, avoid touching your face. So do not touch your face. So you can see that we are putting your layers to define on defined duration of the timeline. So wherever you put the layer on the timeline, from that particular point it will start your animation, or it will show your layer what does it do. So like you can see the new layer which says avoid touching your face, we have put it in 16 seconds. So when your cursor comes to 16 seconds, the animation of that particular layer will start. So let's press space bar and it says avoid touching your face. Now go to frame 18, select stay at home, copy it, go to your final thing and paste it. Press open bracket in front of P to bring your layer to the cursor. Bring your layer to the point where your cursor is. So let's make the scaling 80. Open the layer. Copy the opacity keyframes. Select the layer where you want to copy it. Press spacebar. So now you can see what's happening. So the duration of animation is around 18 to 20. Yes. Now what if we want our entire animation or entire parts of what should we precaution to be taken during the time of coronavirus? If I want all my instruction to be on the frame in one time, so what will we do for that? So firstly, if you can see, the text have disappeared. Open their source. The duration, I think it's scroll frame somewhat it happened disturbed. Select it, paste same way. Select it and now instead of let's take it. Yes, so we need to make the keyframes again. Scaling, positioning, edit it to 75, floating point, edit value to 60. Yes, and drag it, edit the value 35, drag it towards the top of the screen. Now it says water, soap, washer, and for 3 seconds keep distance from sick people, cover your sneeze. If you don't have elbow, don't shake hands, avoid touching your face, stay at home. Now what I want is at point 20 second my screen should go blank. So to go blank you need to create opacity keys. And I want my text layer to come at the center of the screen. So what I can do is I can copy paste my starting position key. Now, sorry. So you can see we need to first create one more key so that the animation, there is no animation from X point to Y point. Then we know we need to go to the out point, and now we can copy paste our keys here. We can reduce the scaling a little bit. No, it should be 40. Right. Now what I need is I need all my instruction to be on this frame. So to do that the easiest way would be copy all the instruction, press command D to duplicate it, cut them. See, I've cutted them so that it's easy for me, it would be on the top in one go. Paste it. So you can see all my instruction are there now. So I need to see if there are any position key. I need to delete those position key. To delete it, simply click here. From where you have created it, you can click there and you can delete it. So if you see the opacity key, I don't need any opacity key, so let's click and delete them also. Scaling we need to reduce to around 55. Now let's see what's happening. So it's coming at all the things are coming in one place. So now let's adjust it. Okay, we need to reduce the size more. Let's reduce the size to around 50. Or let's say it should be 45. So now let's stay at home should be here. Wash your home is the first thing. Wash your hands. Sorry. The second is every 3 hours you need to wash your hands. The third is keep distance from sick people. Yes. The fourth thing is cover your sneeze or cough. The fifth is if you don't have tissue, sneeze on your elbow. Then avoid shaking hands. Come, remember our culture and come back to namaste. Then avoid touching your face. And then stay at home. So it doesn't look good somehow. So let's adjust the positioning. So let's bring it to point. Let's bring it here. Let's bring this to this point. It's in center. It should be in center also. Should be up. It should be down. It should be up. It should be down. Select all. Also, let's see the position of this thing. It will shift slightly. Touch the bone. Touch the bone here once again. So it will give you space. The frame would look open. Now what's happening? Let's see what's happening. So go back, click. All are coming in one go. We need the things to come one by one. So let's keep slight difference. Let's 4 frame would be sufficient. Go to 25 frame. Click and is used to basically create out point. So that's it. Let's preview the animation. The precaution we should take: wash your hands every 3 hours. Keep distance from sick people. Cover your sneeze or cough. If you don't have tissue, cover it with your elbow. Avoid touching face. Stay at home. And all the precaution in one go. So I think it's good. So that's it. So today what we have learned is how to import your Photoshop file, how to mask how to move anchor frames, and so on. So stay at home, try to follow the precaution, do practice the animation which we have learned today. That's it. Stay at home and be safe. Let's meet tomorrow at the same time. Bye bye.